Round of applause, please, for everyone at Right Time. It's great to be back. Thank you, everyone, for coming out and joining us. I don't get out here often enough, but when I do, it's always a huge party. So I love coming here. I love the family. You know, everyone here is fantastic, and thank you for having us again for another awesome event. So, you know, I don't want to spend 45 minutes giving you a lecture on spring drive because I can very easily do that or make it much longer. But, you know, spring drive is always a topic of conversation when people talk about Grand Seiko because it is a technology that is completely unique to us, and not a lot of people really understand how it works. My job is to try and explain that simply. I'm not very good at my job. I make it very long-winded and very detailed, but tonight I'm going to try and simplify spring drive in a nutshell. But it's a very special anniversary this year. Spring drive is celebrating the 9R caliber's 20th anniversary. So that's 20 years ago we started this endeavor to create this mechanical masterpiece that is now one of our best-selling movement types and one of the most renowned movement types in the world. So spring drive has evolved a lot over the years. And, you know, we started in 2004, right? 20th anniversary, makes sense. The math adds up there. So all the way to the left, you have caliber 9R65. 9R65 has remained unchanged since 2004, except for a couple of little changes to the finishing. Right, the rotor used to be sunray finished, and now it's got the. I love when customers call Tokyo stripes. It's not made in Tokyo, so we can't really call it that. But what we call line gradation stripes, right, which are different than a Côte de Genève or, you know, the Swiss waves. And, you know, it's basically through a deep kind of carving process, a spinning carving process, that we create this texture, and it gives us this kind of rainbow effect. So please always look at the caliber 9R65. The finishing is amazing, and the finishing that you get for the money is fantastic. Then in the middle, we have one of our latest introductions, our caliber 9R series, our caliber 9RA. Right? This is 9RA2. It has met a demand that people have been asking for many years in Grand Seiko, and that's please put the power reserve on the back of the watch. We listen sometimes. I know it doesn't seem like it, but we do. No, we've always been capable of actually putting the power reserve on the back of the watch if it was a manual wind movement. So automatic, very different story, much bigger challenge, but thankfully our engineers and designers were up for that challenge, and in 2020 we introduced 9RA5, which had the power reserve on the front still, but 2021 we introduced caliber 9RA2, which threw it on the back. This has 5-day power reserve instead of 3 compared to the 9R65, and has an accuracy of half a second a month instead of 1 second a month compared to the 9R65. So big improvements overall. Then on the far right we have our Micro Artist Studio caliber 9R02. If you're familiar with Creator, this is the same level of quality that goes into Creator, except actually higher. And a lot of people don't realize that. This is based on the same design as the Creator movement, but they made the finishing more elaborate with an inward angle between the jewels, and also on the barrel, because the barrel is raised a little bit higher than it is on the Creator. They have a convex beveling, right, rounded edges that are all done by hand, as every component in that 9R02 is done. It's just more work compared to the 7R14 they use in the Creator. The other thing is, I mentioned it's a taller barrel. There's actually 2 springs in one barrel, which is a new feature that's exclusive to Grand Seiko in this caliber. And it has a 3-day power reserve typically, but because of the torque return system, we're able to get it to 84 hours. So compare that to the Creator, which has the torque return system, but not 2 springs in one barrel. Right? It's 60 hours versus 84. So you get a full extra day, and it's in a smaller package. I brought a sample of one of the masterpieces. I apologize, it's really a bad prototype. There's no movement in it. It's made of steel instead of platinum, so you don't really get the effect of the high-grade product that comes from the Micro Artist Studio with that sample, but at least to get an idea of what the watch looks like. And what's cool is everything on the dial is carved, so please check that out. Over by this gentleman right here, Shotaro is his name. He's going to hold that up for you so you can see. So spring drive, right? It was a long endeavor, and we say that it's 20 years of the caliber 9R, right? So basically in 1977, one of our designers, engineers came up with this idea that we can have a mechanical watch that has basically an electromagnetic brake. He came up with the idea with a bicycle rolling down a hill and using a brake to slow the speed, right? Nothing's oscillating. It's all just going one way, and he's slowing down the speed with a little bit of friction involved, so we needed to get rid of that. So he wanted to use electromagnetic braking, right? So basically turning a magnet on and off to slow the speed of the wheel that's regulating the time in the watch. Brilliant idea, but he was way ahead of his time. He couldn't get a prototype working until 1982. It only ran for 3 hours, so no luck making a watch out of that. Right? You'd be winding every 3 hours. Could you imagine? That's really annoying. So by 1993, 11 years later, they got it to 10 hours. That's a long time. Not 10 hours, 11 years. So, sorry if I made that a little confusing. So 1993, still nothing, right? No commercial product. 1998, they finally got a method, let's say, right? They had to get really innovative to figure out how to make it run for at least 2 days. So in 1999, they came out with a small series of watches under the 7R series caliber, which was less than 1,000 watches produced, right? That was the first introduction of spring drive in end of 1998, early 1999 is when we started the commercial sales. So this is the long road to spring drive. If you look at 9R, 2004, from 1977 to 2004, that's 27 years of R&D. I can't think of another watch movement that spent that much time developing.
You're good.
Is it not working?
No, you're good.
I'm just loud. I'm sorry. I'm very obnoxious. All right, so now I'm going to show you the technical part. This is the mechanism of spring drive. This is how it works. And I'm going to compare it to a mechanical watch, and hopefully everyone knows a little bit about how a mechanical watch works, but I will explain that a bit along the way as well. So if you're looking at the screen, this is spring drive. It is very irregular compared to a normal mechanical movement. There's a lot of parts that don't make sense. This is a self-winding watch, and why are there those coils and a tuning fork and all this? Right? It seems unnecessary, but it's all the brilliance of this mechanism. So a mainspring is the power source, right? As you wear the watch or wind it, it winds up, unwinds, and starts to drive all of the gears and therefore all the hands. If you don't have some kind of brake, time flies, right? The hands fly out of control. So you need a brake. Slow it down somehow. So, for hundreds of years, they've been using an escapement, right? A lever escapement in particular has been used in the watch industry literally for hundreds of years. That's still 90-something% of watches today. It locks and unlocks the last wheel in the gear train by determining the accuracy through a kind of pendulum effect, right? The balance wheel oscillates back and forth to establish an even pace of time, right? One turn in one direction is half, and then the other is one full oscillation. So most of those are going about 4 hertz in today's world, right? That's one full completion or 8 beats. And you get this sweeping second hand, right? It's beautiful. It's been around for a long time and people appreciate it. But we wanted to do something different. So Mr. Akahane, the designer of spring drive, came up with this idea to take the power from the mainspring, use almost like a crank generator, right, or a wind turbine, and use the rotational speed to generate a small amount of electricity, get the accuracy from a quartz tuning fork oscillator, and then send energy back in the form of an electromagnet turning on and off so that it slows the speed of the wheel without making any physical contact. So the electromagnet turns on and slows the speed because of an everlasting magnet that's on the central axis of the wheel. That's the brilliance of spring drive, right? No collision, no friction, no need for lubrication in the escapement. It is the only watch of its kind. Unfortunately, it took a long time to get this to work. And that was the big challenge. That's why 28 years, it was just not energy efficient enough. But through many different breakthroughs, both mechanical and electrical, we were able to bring spring drive to life. The other beauty of spring drive, of course, is the gliding motion of the second hand. Because there's no stop and go motion in spring drive, you have this second hand that doesn't tick, it doesn't sweep, it doesn't stutter. Right? It is a completely fluid gliding motion across the dial. And there's no other watch in the world that can do that. So spring drive is very special in many different ways. This is just a few. Of course, the accuracy is one of the main goals, but now all spring drives basically have a minimum of 3-day power reserve, going all the way up to 8, right? And accuracy less than half a second a day, no matter what it is, sometimes better, right? We've even the most accurate, mainspring powered or mechanically powered watch in the world was spring drive. The only thing that beats it is another spring drive. I imagine another 20 years from now, I'll be giving a similar lecture about 4 other generations of spring drive that have exceeded each other. So this is a lot of the magic in spring drive is the glide wheel. So the glide wheel does not rotate back and forth, right? It just rolls one way. There's a magnet on its central axis, and that's what generates your power, but also slows the speed to keep perfect time. The other element of that is the coils. And these coils, a lot of people think this is really an electronic component. It's just a copper coil wire bound around some more metal. Like all it does is transfer energy. So it's not really, it's involved in some of the electronic aspect of spring drive, but it's not really an electronic component. The only thing that's electronic in spring drive is a very ultra low power IC that enables spring drive to operate on such low power that if everyone on Earth, all 7.5 billion people were wearing a spring drive, we could power about a 150 watt light bulb, which just went out right now. Ironically, as I'm saying that. You're listening back there, waiting with the light switch. So I mentioned a lot of the beauty of spring drive already, but just to give you a little more insight, when we designed the first caliber to go in Grand Seiko spring drive 9R65, we designed the oscillating weight bridge and also the power reserve bridge and the barrel bridge to mimic the outline of the Hotaka and Jonen mountain range that surround the Shinshu Watch Studio, where this was developed and is continued to be made today. So beauty, right? You have the beveling, nice 45-degree angle on all the edges. You have the line gradation stripes I mentioned earlier. It's beautifully finished and has well over 250 components for a simple automatic. Right, almost 100 more than most automatics out there. As I mentioned, in recent years, we've added the striping. That changed around 2011. I think it went from sunray finish to striping. So it's been a very long time. But 9R65 remains unchanged 20 years later. But now we're beefing things up. Right? We got 5-day power reserve, higher accuracy. We also ramped up on the finishing. So now we have this Shinshu frost finish, which is such a delicate finish that it was a huge challenge for our craftsmen and women to figure out how to hold these bridges with tweezers, right? So that's one of the beauties of this is the skill that's required just to assemble the movement, let alone the finish itself. The other thing is if you look at all the edges are rounded. That's not typically capable without doing it manually by hand with a hand file and shaping it fully by hand, which costs for us $42,000 is the starting price for that. So this is a more industrialized manner, but we're the first that are able to create this rounded beveled edge. You can find this in the Lake Suwa models. You can find this anything caliber 9R-A2 or 9R-A5, and then you have of course the tempered blued screws. So the other thing too is if you look at the bottom left of the screen, there's this other finishing technique. It looks kind of like perlage or purling, right? It's not. It's a totally new finishing technique we call pedaling, and no one really knows about it. So there's my insider info for the day. And then this is what I was talking about with the Micro Artist Studio. When you think about the Micro Artist Studio, most people think about Crador, and I understand why. There's been a lot of articles written over the years. It's been around a bit longer than this caliber 9R02, but this is enhanced in every way, right? The finishing, like I said, is made to be better intentionally. The power reserve, the duration is made to be better. The Micro Artist Studio does not cut corners, right? Everything is finished by hand so meticulously that this is competing in cost with, Philippe Dufour in the early 2000s, or Romain Gauthier, or all these independent watchmakers that everyone loves nowadays that no one can buy. this is who they compete with. You know, watches typically in the $80,000 starting price range. So, you know, they should be very proud of the work that they're doing there. Those are amazing people to be stacked up against. So, you know, they should have a very proud team, but we do it our own way at the same time. So, the other element of beauty, of course, I already mentioned, is the second hand. Like I said, no one else in the world can recreate that. So, after, you know, at least 20 years of working on, you know, perfecting spring drive, we're still at it. We're not slowing down. We're coming out with a few models for the anniversary this year. I don't want to egg anyone on because they're going to be hard to get, but I got to talk about them because it's the anniversary. Don't yell at me. I'm sorry. So for the first time, we're introducing a snowflake with a gradation dial inspired by the Hotaka Peaks, right? This is our 20th anniversary, limited to 1,500 pieces. It's basically the same as the snowflake, but now we're doing a new finishing technique on the dial, or a kind of gradation lacquering, which we have not done before, at least on a publicly available model. And so it's a good sign for the future. Right? It's, you know, we can potentially see other things down the road with using this technique now.
Potentially?
I mean, I can't say for sure. If I have enough drinks tonight, maybe I'll leak some information. No, I'm just kidding. I'm very good about
Grab
that.
another one. Fill them up.
And then we'll also be introducing a GMT. This one's not coming out until June, but a GMT also celebrating the same anniversary with the same theme, just a little darker in concept, right? So sunray finished, deep red dial. So in our Sport GMT, which is 40.5 millimeters for those who think that Grand Seiko only makes 44 millimeter sports watches. No, we've been doing this for a little while, but it's nice that we're coming out with more options as time goes on. So that's my presentation. I'm sorry it was so long, but I have so much to say. Thank you, everyone. And most importantly, kanpai.